I must say. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to another week of Kingdom Builders Credit Repair. We are so excited that you are here. Thank you for joining us. Make sure that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button at Kingdom Builders Credit Repair, YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, everywhere that we are streaming, as well as social media. That's right. Make sure that you are locked in so that you never ever miss another episode of the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair TV show and podcast. Did y'all know that we have a podcast? That's right. Go to Kingdom Builders Credit Repair podcast and you can listen in while you're driving, on the way to work, coming from work, at work. It doesn't matter. You can still connect with us everywhere. So make sure that you get locked in and get in where you fit in. So today we are coming to you once again, as we do every Friday from 12:30 to 1. And we are going to be talking about all things credit and finances, because that's what we do here at KBCR, right? And today's topic is about, is the bankruptcy the real solution, or is it a temporary fix? Is it something that you're temporarily doing so that you can just put a little band-aid on your finances? Are you doing the bankruptcy because it's just a timeout? Are you doing the bankruptcy because you don't know what else to do with your finances? So this is why we have the KBCR TV show every single Friday from 12:30 to 1, because we need to talk about these kind of subject matters. That's right. So get ready to lock in. Go ahead and pull up a notepad and a pen so that you can begin to take notes, so that you will understand that if you are facing this type of situation, that you will know what to do going forward. Now, as we always do at the beginning of our show, is talk about what is credit. What is credit and how does that differ from your finances? So when we talk about credit, credit is the ability for you to be able to go and borrow from a lender or a financial institution, a creditor. You can borrow an amount of money in exchange for a monthly payment, because you don't have the lump sum of money right now. So in the simplest terms, it's the ability for you to be able to borrow money that you don't have today for a house, in exchange for a car, in exchange for a personal loan, a credit card, anything that you want to receive, or even the things that you actually need. Those are the ways that you can create a contract with a financial institution, a creditor, lender, in exchange for a monthly payment, or a large or small payment per month, or every 2 weeks, or every week, in order for you to still obtain the item that you don't have enough money for altogether. So when we think of credit, we want to think of terms of lump sums. Your ability to be able to obtain credit in the first place is all based on the fact that we don't walk around with lump sums of money at one time. So we don't go to the car lot and decide that we are going to come up with $40,000 to $50,000 or $25,000, depending on the type of car that you're looking for. We don't go to look for houses and have in our pockets $300,000 to $500,000, right? So if we're just starting out in the world of finances and of credit, what happens is that we tend to work our way up to the lump sum. And that's the reason why credit is so crucial, because majority of us don't have the ability to be able to come up with that lump sum anytime soon. So therefore, we lock in over a period of years in order for us to pay off our debts, to pay off the things that will accrue on our credit that we didn't have enough money for today to pay for as a lump sum. Plain and simple, right? Well, it can get a little complicated, but that's the simplest version of what you will understand about what credit is. And how does credit differ from finances? When we talk about credit, credit are things that are always going to be financed with a contract agreement, terms and conditions under the lender or creditor or provider of that loan that you are borrowing, because even if you get a credit card, it's still considered to be a loan, but it's a revolving loan that you can continue to borrow off of over and over again. So in all terms, credit is a loan of some kind or a card of some kind where you can go back and borrow more money as time passes. But what we want to understand, the difference between credit is that you have a contract with the lender or creditor. You have a contract with a financial institution that you have to pay back. And after the end of you paying it back, or if you decide that you don't pay it back, then you're still going to have that appear on your credit report. And that's going to be something that's locked in pretty much for 7 years. But even if 7 years passes and you still have not paid it off, or if you have paid it off, the item could still be impacting your credit because net most people don't understand, and I just want to emphasize this real quick. Most people do not understand that the 7 year window for something to be removed from your credit does not exist without a dispute investigation. If you are not willing to hire a credit repair company to delete or remove something from your credit through an investigation dispute, or if you yourself do not try to dispute the item off of your credit after 7 years, it's going to remain on your credit report. So I want us to clearly understand that the credit is the items that we have contracts with our lenders and creditors through some form of a financial institution that lent us that money that we did not have at the very beginning when we couldn't come up with that lump sum. But the finances of our livelihood is really different from credit. Finances are what we call basic living expenses here at Kingdom Builders Credit Repair. So make sure you remember that came from KBCR. But anyway, basic living expenses are basically your utilities. These are the things that you handle on a regular day-to-day basis, things that you need in order to live, like food and lights and water and all types of grooming supplies, or your child care, or you're going back to school and the tuition that you're paying. All of those are considered to be what? Is considered to be your basic living expenses. What do you need in order to live? That would be considered a finance situation. That's considered to be where, even though on the credit side you are financing the debt, but on the personal side of your basic living expenses, it's really just something that you're recycling over and over again. So the difference between the two is one is recyclable, where you are going to have to deal with that over and over again for the rest of your life, and you will never be the owner of the service that is provided in your finances. So your basic living expenses will always be things that you will recycle over and over again in your life, and you will never be the owner of the service that is being provided, like your cell phone. You own the phone, but you have to have the service in order for the phone to work. You will never own the phone company service unless you are a business owner, and that's a whole different conversation. And you need to check out our Wednesday show at Kingdom Builders Business University, KB. Michelle Green. But that's a whole different conversation. But what I'm saying to you is that when it comes to the finances, the reason why it's so separate from the credit is because when we deal with finances, we're talking about things that we live off of, things that we need in order to recycle over and over again. You need food, you need water, you need to be able to pay the rent if you don't own your home. But if you own your home, that will fall in a credit file instead of a utility file. But all the things that we need in order to live, finances, credit, finances, they all pretty much are married to each other. But we have to learn how to separate the two categories in order for us to have the best outcome. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is the reason why we think that the solution of going and getting a bankruptcy is the answer to all of our livelihood. Half of us believe that if we're in debt, if we are having a lot of our accounts going into charge off, we have a lot of our accounts going into collections, or even before we get to the point where we start having those late payments on a regular basis, and either we lose our jobs or we get demoted, our jobs are not paying as much, maybe we're not getting as many hours. Right now, we are living in a what I would consider to be kind of like a crisis mode, because the economy is where the government is shut down, and there are a lot of people who are furloughed. They're not actually getting a paycheck, and they really don't understand like what they need to do with their finances. So one of the things that most people are thinking about is either just letting everything go and not considering the fact that once they let everything go, how are they going to get back to a sane place with their finances and with their credit. Whereas the other end of the stick is where most people are thinking about, hey, let me just do a bankruptcy because I don't have a way to control my money. I don't have a way to control the financial situation bind that I'm in, especially if you're not receiving a paycheck, or if you're receiving a check, but it's not consistent. If you're receiving a check and it's not what you need in order to pay the bills, in order to pay the debts. And when you think about finances, I just want to emphasize bills are considered to be those basic living expenses, and debts are considered to be the things that are on your credit. So that's how you determine the two. But today we want to talk about what is the solution to this problem. When we think about the problems that we have regarding our credit, regarding our finances, we usually think about trying to get out of a situation through a shortcut way. So, like I said, either we're thinking about we're just gonna let everything go, or if we really don't want to let everything go, we think about, can I actually go into my finances and just file for bankruptcy? So, first, we need to know that bankruptcy, out of the area of credit, it falls in a category of an extension of a collection. So when we think about the definition of a bankruptcy, it is a way that we can seek, let's say, legal ramifications around not being able to take care of the things that are on our credit. Okay, so it does not have anything to do with your basic living expenses. So I want to be clear on that. When you have your basic living expenses, they will be separated. Your bills will be separated from the things that are on your credit. And when it comes to the bankruptcy is only going to cover the things that are on your credit that are going into a status of late payments, into charge off, write off, and then into collections. So sometimes we can catch it at the status of late payments to do a bankruptcy. And sometimes we have the things that are already headed towards charge off or in charge off. And then we got the things that are in collections. But I want us to understand that when we think of a bankruptcy, the bankruptcy itself is literally the what we call a public record. It is an extension of a collection. So if we've already been following the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair show, TV show, and podcast, we know that this is the order of us going from bad to worse to the most horrible status of our credit and finances. And that is when we reach the point of collections and the collection account takes away over 100 points from our credit. So we know that we start out with that late payment, then we go into the charge off, write off. Then we go into the collection status. But where on the list do we hit bankruptcy? Where on the list do we have what is called a public record? Like I was saying earlier, a bankruptcy is a public record, which means that legally there will be a record created regarding your finances that anybody is able to go and look at through the court system. Through the court system, there will be a judge that you will go before, or there will be attorneys involved where legal ramifications are established regarding the fact that you cannot pay the things that you have accrued in your name as a credit item. And when that happens, when we get to the stage of the bankruptcy becomes what is called a public record, and that public record is an extension of a collection. So if we were losing 100 points at the collection level, when we reach the public record level, we are going to increase the amount of points that we are losing. We are going to increase the amount of points that we are losing on our credit scores. So, being that we know that our credit scores and our credit reports are two different categories, just like finances and credit are two different categories, we need to understand that when we choose to do a bankruptcy, it's going to appear on our credit reports as the first thing that is negatively reporting, and it is going to cost you almost 200 points deducted. And when we do a bankruptcy, we need to understand what type of bankruptcy are we going to file for, and what are the repercussions of that bankruptcy. So first, let me back up just for a second. When we look at the bankruptcy, and we realize that the bankruptcy is going to appear to be the first thing on our credit reports. It's going to be the first thing because it is known as the public record, and that is the main focal point of to say to any lender or creditor, especially in the case of buying a home or if you're trying to get a large loan of any kind, that's going to be the first thing that people are going to check on to see if there is a problem with you being able to pay your bills or to pay your debts, your debts, your things that are on your credit. And when they find out that this is the first thing that they see, then that may determine a longer period of time before a lender or creditor will be willing to give you credibility for whatever it is that you're applying for. So you cannot just decide that, oh, I want to go and get this bankruptcy and I'm going to be fine, for someone to temporarily put me in a timeout to say that I'm in timeout of not being able to pay my debts. I'm in timeout of not being able to pay the things that are on my credit. What it's really saying is that you're not just in a timeout, you're in a waiting period of 10 years. That's right. 10 years is the time period for a bankruptcy to be on your credit, because the bankruptcy is considered to be a what? Public record. Public records normally stay on your credit for 10 whole years. So just as I previously just explained to you, that if you don't dispute anything from your credit, if you do not hire a credit repair company, or if you do not hire, or not even hire, if you do not decide to do a dispute investigation yourself, then the items that are on your credit as a public record bankruptcy, then it means that it's going to remain on your credit for usually 7 to 10 years. 10 years for the majority of public records that are on your credit report. So let's let that sink in first. Okay. Secondly, let's talk about the actual bankruptcies itself. So, what are the types of bankruptcy that exist? We are looking at, there is a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and there's also a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So when it comes to the bankruptcies, we want to understand what type of bankruptcy should we even apply for in the first place. What type of bankruptcy, if you have even considered to do a bankruptcy, what is the bankruptcy that you should choose? So we have the bankruptcy that wipes away everything. Okay. And just basically has you waiting a period of the 10 years where you're not going to be able to pretty much get any type of credit. And that's definitely a long period of time for you to put your life in timeout. Okay. Then we have the bankruptcy that allows us to make the payments on the debt, but they may have been negotiated once they are closed and in the bankruptcy. What we don't understand about it is that we can make the payments on the debt. Overall, there will be a trustee that decides how much debt you're actually going to pay in exchange for the rest of the balances being paid off. So that's where you're going to be making some monthly payments. So as a whole, we're still thinking about that lump sum. We're still thinking about what is the overall amount of debt that you owe as a balance. And when you're thinking about certain bankruptcies, whether it's the Chapter 13 or the Chapter 7, you want to consider for both of them what is the total amount of debt that you owe before you even consider doing the bankruptcy. So let's look at the lump sum of what is the balance of everything that's on our credit. That if we had to pay off every debt that we own, everything that's open, everything that is active, and even the things that are charged off or written off or in collections, what is the total amount? Okay, what is that total? Now, in most bankruptcies, they are going to be looking at the things that are still active and open, that are still going to have a balance on them. And that can include your mortgage. That could not include your mortgage. It could include some vehicles. It could even include some student loans or not include some student loans, but it's going to be based on the type of bankruptcy that you choose. And a lot of people don't realize the things that they can put in bankruptcy, but the major thing that most people don't understand is we need to figure out first what is the total amount of debt that we owe. I will tell you that being in the credit repair industry, most people have a total debt balance of somewhere between $100,000 to about $500,000 in debt as the average American in the United States of America. And that is a very high balance amount of debt. That is with a house or without a house. Sometimes we have the amount of student loan debt that equals a total mortgage. That's right, to pay off an actual mortgage. So, what I want us to understand is that when we look at the bankruptcy itself, look at the total amount of debt that you owe and make the considerations of would you be able to, over a period of time, even though you might be struggling right now to pay your debts, would you be able over a period of time to pay off those debts? Would it be easier for you to pay off that lump sum over a period of less than 10 years? Or would it be easier for you to pay off that debt over a period of longer than 10 years? So you want to decide if the amount of debt that you owe, the total lump sum of debt altogether, whether or not it's even worth you attempting to do a bankruptcy to put your finances and your credit in timeout. Is it even worth it? If you're just in like ten to $25,000 worth of debt, I would definitely not put my life in time out for just that small amount of debt. Even up to 50 and even $100,000. I don't personally, from what I have seen in the financial industry as a financial advisor, what I have seen in the credit industry as a credit analyst, I would not advise for you to go forward with the bankruptcy. And I'm saying that because plans can be put together if you really decide to put your mind to it, to pay off the debt over a shorter period of time and to relieve yourself from having this stain on your credit files that you are in a bankruptcy and have this public record that is haunting you all around every single day. So we want to consider, we really want to think about before we even go into a bankruptcy, if that is truly the solution for our credit. Is that really the solution for us or not? Because putting a band-aid on it, putting a timeout on your credit is not always the best answer. And then you want to think about the fact that a bankruptcy, when it pertains to your credit report, is also going to show up not just as the public record, but it's also going to show beside every single account that is included within the bankruptcy, because you have to select all the different accounts that will be included in the bankruptcy. So once you look at the credit report after you have done a bankruptcy, it is going to show the public record itself as the bankruptcy chapter 13 or chapter 7. And then it's also going to report on your credit beside every single account included in the bankruptcy, a status that this account is included in the bankruptcy. So what happens on your credit file is you're going to get hit twice. You are going to be hit twice with a bankruptcy. So you're going to have the public record that's going to take pretty much 200 points away from your credit score immediately as soon as it is filed for your credit report. Then we have the other accounts that you included in the bankruptcy that's now going to have the status that this account is included in that bankruptcy. And that's going to take your points down all over again. That's right. You're getting hit twice with points. So is it really worth it? And is it really worth it for the time period of 10 years of your life to put the credit on timeout? Is it really worth your other financial status where you need to really be able to make a living, to be able to feed your family, to be able to, engage in your basic living expenses, the food, the lights, the water, the cable? Are you able to sustain those things if you choose to do the bankruptcy? And will you be able to sustain a future with handling your utilities as well as handling that bankruptcy that's now going to be on your credit? Is it really worth that for 10 years of your life? And I know a lot of people always come to me and they're like, well, I did the bankruptcy, it's already spilled milk. I wish I had known you before. And how can you help me to reestablish my credit? Well, I can help you to reestablish your credit because everybody, no matter, even if they are in the worst shape ever with their credit, public record, collections, charge off write offs, late payments, profile issues, inquiry issues, even managing their actual finances and not understanding how to manage their money are things that we help you with here at Kingdom Builders Credit Repair. But the thing is that even though we can help you to reestablish your credit, if you're serious about doing some big things in your life, when I say big things in the credit world, of being able to buy a house, being able to buy a bigger house, being able to refinance your house, being able to, get a large loan. Maybe you are thinking about going in business. Maybe you're already in business and you're thinking about, hey, I want to go in business. I want to be able to get business credit. I want to be able to get a business loan. I want to be able to, be considered for a grant or a large loan of some kind. If you're thinking about buying that luxury vehicle, these are the reasons why you should really reconsider, because what happens is that bankruptcy is going to follow you everywhere. As a business owner, when you have a bankruptcy, there are things that you will either be limited or not have access to at all that you absolutely need as a business owner, or and you may be in a position to where you will have to pay a lot more money out of pocket just because you have a personal bankruptcy on your credit. So we want to really think about real hard before we decide to just go and place a bankruptcy because we're having hard times right now, because the economy is how it is, because things are going the way that they are going. We don't want to just absolutely make a quick decision on something that is going to take a long period of time of our life and really drastically change our livelihood with our credit and with our finances. Do you know how hard it is for someone who has a bankruptcy to really bounce back? I know people make it seem like the ones who have done the bankruptcy, like it's just a simple process. But if it was really that simple of a process, then it would be something that all of us would really jump on and be able to easily get out of. But anything that's going to lock you down for 10 years or longer because you didn't hire a credit repair company to dispute anything off of your credit, or you tried to do it yourself and you were unsuccessful, and the stuff is still following you around, and now it's 12 years, it's 15 years, it's 20 years, and you're trying to figure out, like, how are you ever going to see the light of day with your credit? See, these are the kind of conversations that we need to have before we make a permanent decision for the next 10 to 20 years of our life versus two, even 1 to 2 years of our life. Because coming into the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair Program would allow you to really be able to change your financial status altogether within 12 months to 24 months versus 10 years of your life. I mean, think about the last 10 years of your life and how drastically your credit and your finances have changed. I don't care where you're coming from, even if you started with nothing. Think about how in the last 2 years that your life has changed financially. Think about how your credit has changed financially. And think about, before you decide to just jump on a bankruptcy, that this is the absolute solution to my finances, to my credit. And if I can just get that time out, if I can just take a break for a little bit of time, in your mind, you're thinking it's a little bit of time, but it's actually a long period of time, a much longer period of time that could really follow you and be detrimental to your success with your credit and your finance. So just think about that for a second. Think about for a second, is it really worth the time? Is it really worth you doing the time for to go ahead and get a chapter 13, a chapter 7? Is it really worth this following you around on your credit reports, in your other files where people are collecting data about you? Is it really worth you even risking your business? If you are a business owner, an entrepreneur, is it really worth you risking the livelihood of your spouse? Because when you do a bankruptcy, if you are married to someone, it's also going to appear on your spouse's credit report. It's going to be a public record stating that you are married to the person, because guess what? It's still a legal file. So we want to really consider, before we do a bankruptcy, what are we really signing up for, and how long is this really going to impact my life? Most of the time, I will say, regardless of how much debt you have, even if it's $1 million of debt, most of the time, we could really bounce back within 2 to 5 years, way quicker, way sooner than if we did the bankruptcy. If we would just discipline ourselves, be willing to readjust some things, and be willing to get into the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair Program so that we can guide you on how to handle your credit and your finances. Listen, if you learned something today, I want you to go ahead and put a comment below. If you learned something, also share this message with a friend or family member. Go ahead and click the subscribe button. Make sure that you connect with us everywhere. Make sure that you sign up for our program. And if you're already in our program, let's have this discussion. Before you decide to make the decision to do a timeout with your credit, let's literally think about this in every aspect to make sure this is the best decision for your livelihood. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next Friday from 12:30 to 1 right here on the Kingdom Builders Credit Repair TV show and podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.